Catherine Teagan Books and Harper Audio present The Animal Rescue Agency, Case File, Pangolin Pop Star by Eliot Schrefer, performed by Reba Burr. A note before we begin. For interesting facts about animals, as well as a recipe from Mr. Pepper's Kitchen, be sure to download the accompanying enhancement PDF from your audiobook provider, or go directly to www.harpercollins.com/audio Animal Rescue Agency Case File Pangolin Pop Star. For Patty. Prologue. Jewel the Pangolin had been having the most wonderful dream. She'd been lost in the trees, surrounded by so many shades of green, so many humming insects and chirping frogs. Her sharp front claws had broken open a crumbly log, and inside were fat ants. Slurp, slurp, slurp with her long tongue, and down they went. It turned out she'd been slurping her pillow. When she opened her eyes, she saw the silk was covered in goo from her sticky saliva. How unclassy. Jewel delicately turned the pillow over. There, no one would notice. She pressed her claws over her eyes and tried to live inside the dream for a few more minutes. She didn't remember ever visiting a place like that, but the last few nights she'd dreamed of the same jungle. So many leaves and delicious ants in one place. Where had this fantasy land come from? As far as she could remember, her life had been only private jets and fancy hotels. Jewel looked around to see if anyone had spotted her drooling, but the resort hotel room was empty. How strange. Her beloved owner, Dizzy Dillinger, the biggest human pop star in the world, wasn't there. His other exotic pets, Butch the wild cat and Arabella the monkey, weren't there. Neither was Jewel's brother Beatle. Where was everyone? Then Jewel looked out of the villa's window and saw that the sun, which she thought really ought to be up at the top of the sky, was closer to the horizon, turning the sea orange. She was late. On instinct, Jewel rolled into a tight ball, her scales sticking out everywhere. But that was no help. That strategy was for predators. Not that her dear Dizzy would ever let her get near any of those. Jewel unrolled herself, whiskers trembling, then scampered off the silk pillow and out the door. "You're a star," she scolded herself. "You better act like it." She got her nerves under control and stepped haughtily down the corridor. Dizzy Dillinger always insisted that his pets be allowed to freely roam whatever resort he was staying in. The hallway was all a blur. Everything was always a blur to Jewel, actually, with her weak pangolin eyes. But it was full of smells that gave a lot of information to her sensitive nose. She could detect Caribbean seawater on the other side of the billowing curtains, the fragrance of the individual ants marching through the walls, and the scent of humans all around. That was Dizzy's friends and road crew, preparing for his big concert that weekend. She easily tracked her brother's fragrance, following it through the hallways, calmly stepping between human legs all the while. One particularly awkward-looking human tried to pet her. Ew, no way. Finally, she climbed a staircase banister to get to Beatle's dressing room. Before she went in, she double-checked that there was no more drool crusted on the tip of her nose. Her brother teased her whenever she looked less than perfect. Beatle's dressing room was what a human would have called a cosmetics trunk, but Dizzy's pets knew it was much more than that. Inside was a paradise of colors. One side was covered top to bottom in bottles of nail polish, a rainbow of blueberries and lemons and plums. Beetle had a strawberry red bottle in one claw and was delicately applying the color to the smallest scales at the tip of his tail. The polish was a big reason for Beetle's fame in the animal world. He spent hours painting himself before each concert or even a dress rehearsal like tonight. It was an amazing effect, which was why his concerts drew even bigger crowds than Dizzy's. To be fair, anytime roaches and rabbits are invited to an event, the attendance numbers get very big very quickly. "You're late, sister," Beetle snapped. "My indigo intensity scales are still going to be wet during the rehearsal." "I'm sorry, Beetle," Jewel said, casting her eyes to the black velvet at the bottom of the trunk. "I was having that dream again, the one with all the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?